fired you up. Yes, sir.
This is Appetite for Distortion.
And welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode 150. My name is Brando. Coming up momentarily, we'll be speaking with Mark Cantor, proprietor of Cantor's Deli, very famous landmark out in L.A., and also the author who had the foresight to document the early days of Guns N' Roses, but a few years ago, and many of you own it, Reckless Road, Guns N' Roses, and the making of Appetite for Destruction. So he's been a long-awaited guest on the program, so can't wait to speak with Mark. And returning to the program, this is going to be a special episode, much like when we interviewed both Roberta Freeman and Teddy Zigzag on the same episode. One kind of plays co-host, but it's meant to spark organic conversation between friends that just happens to be recorded and on a podcast. And returning since, I believe it was episode 58, Guns N' Roses' very first photographer, Jack Blue. And if you're not following Jack on Instagram, you're doing it wrong. It's just all rock stars, because Jack gets the best shots of the biggest stars and tons of beautiful women. Jack, you're living the life, aren't you?
Pretty good. Women. Yeah.
So he's bringing along a friend of his, and this has been kind of like a guest request since I started this podcast. And I don't know, I feel I wanted to wait until I got established to talk to someone like Mark Cantor, who has been there was there for so long at the beginning of it, from Cantor's Deli, of course. The famous book that came out in 2007, I believe, Reckless Road, Guns N' Roses. And, well, Mark from Cantor's Deli, I guess the first thing to ask you, is it true that you sold 10 million matzo balls throughout the course of Cantor's Deli? Is that an actual factual number?
I myself did not, but yes, Cantor's have over the last 88 years. Probably more. Those numbers were compiled like 15 years ago, and we stopped counting. So it's going to be somewhere, a little bit more than that now.
Well, it just it makes my Jewish heart swell with pride, because I've never been to, even though I talk about a band from L.A. all the time, I haven't gone further than Minnesota yet. So I haven't been there, and I always wonder, are there Jews in California? I never know, because I'm a Long Island guy, Brooklyn, New York City. We got Ben's Deli. I'm hoping maybe one day you'll franchise. I don't know if that's ever.
Well, it's hard to duplicate. If you don't own the land, it's too hard to keep up with the food costs and the labor. Delis have Deli has high food costs, but it also has everything's manufactured. Right down to the cheese blends you make the crepe. You don't take something out of the freezer and stick it in your drawer and then cook it when someone orders it. You're making it from scratch. So it's difficult. But by the way, back to the matzo balls. Matzo ball soup is still our number one seller on Postmates. So we sell 350 orders of matzo ball soup a week just on Postmates alone.
I love it. You actually answered another question I was going to ask, was what would be your best seller? So that's how I always knew we would hit it off, Mark.
Well, that's our best online seller.
Okay.
It could also still be our best seller. We don't really check those numbers very often, because the online reports, they send you an email every week of what your top 5 or 6 items were, and matzo ball soup always wins. But so it could possibly be the same, in the restaurant. We sell a lot of Reubens.
Okay.
That's probably the second best seller.
Jeez,
Great when you're sick. Matzo ball soup is great when you're sick.
Absolutely. I actually had it last night at a diner. Wow, I'm very stereotypical. So I had matzo ball soup last night because I'm a little under the weather today. But enough about me. How long have you two been friends? How long have you been having Mark's matzo ball soup, Jack? How long have you kind of been...
It's probably...
1979.
Yeah, Fairfax days. Earlier than that, Mark. They used to...
We went to a Styx concert.
Oh, that was
Jack used to, when Jack was in high school, they'd go like 6 in the morning down to the Forum and sit down literally in the freezing cold, and men with orange jumpsuits would walk around. It's like something out of a horror film, and they pass out priority numbers at random. They're not in any particular order, and they just like, you sit quietly and they'll give you a number maybe. And then that tells you your place in line. So Jack used to go there and get tickets, and I had a mutual friend, Alan Stark, and Jack used to wheel and deal tickets. Sometimes he'd buy 4, but he only needed 2 or 3, so, he would look to see who else might want the other one. In the end, we ended up going to a concert together in 1979, and that's how we met.
I don't think it was Styx.
It might have been. It's.
Who do you think it was, Jack?
I'm trying to remember. It was, shit.
I missed that Jack laugh, by the way.
If I had my concert book with all the ticket stubs, I would know in 1 second. But my first concert I ever went to was actually Van Halen. That was right around September, October of '79.
Wow.
So it would have been soon after that.
Okay.
And I remember Jack felt bad for me because there was a Kiss concert coming up right after that, like, the following week. And I wanted to go, but they didn't have any extra tickets. So I do remember that, but I don't. My best guess is we went to see Styx, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that was wrong.
It's okay. I'm not going to do any fact checking here. Don't worry.
It's a good guess.
Yeah, I believe it. So let me ask, and before I ask, I want to preface it with I know it's never too late to say, even though it happened, I guess, for you and your family a while ago. I'm very sorry for the loss of your dad.
No, I know. I that it's hard. It's a circle of life, and it's never easy. And he the last year of his life, we knew that the end was coming, but we were lucky enough to have him another year. And his mind was. It wasn't like he was like a vegetable or anything. His mind was perfectly fine. His body was just couldn't keep up. His kidneys and other bodily parts. But even 2 days before he passed, he was still in good spirits as far as. His mind. So, we were lucky to have him as long as we did.
Well, that's a great outlook. And the reason I bring that up, other than, of course, just being human and sending condolences, for me, my dad is the one who really got me into rock music. He's the one that would play the Doors on the radio, Zeppelin. So was it your dad, or who got you into rock music, I guess? Why was Styx allegedly your favorite concert? What?
It wasn't. Styx was not my favorite concert. It was just
your first.
concert.
Your first.
No, my first concert
was Van Halen. Right.
Van Halen.
Your Van Halen, right?
And Van Halen is a good reason why anyone would go see Van Halen in 1979 because they were good. No, I was just getting into music, and I liked Aerosmith and Ted Nugent and just whatever Van Halen. It was just Zeppelin, rock and roll, AC/DC, all that stuff. So naturally, you're going to go to anything that comes across your town you're going to go to. So
you saw everything.
But it definitely wasn't my dad. It was probably me stealing some records from my sister's record collection.
Okay.
And putting them on the turntable and finding Black Sabbath, We Stole Their Soul for Rock and Roll, and Aerosmith, Toys in the Attics, and that kind of stuff. Finding the records that your siblings have.
Jacqueline was listening to that type of music.
No, Jacqueline. It turns out that Jacqueline only bought that Black Sabbath record, my sister Jacqueline, because she had a crush on a guy that liked Black Sabbath, so she thought if she had a Black Sabbath record and that he would think she was cool. But in the end, there was no way in hell she liked Black Sabbath. But now the funny thing is she's friends with Ozzy and she goes to see Ozzy. But that was that. And my dad definitely didn't get us into music, but funny thing is working in the 60s at Cantor's, he was right in the middle of the Summer of Love with the Doors and, everybody, the Mamas and Papas and the Byrds and just all those...
Love it.
Jimi Hendrix, whatever, they all came through here, one way or the other, the Yardbirds, and so he dealt with them in one way or another, but he was too busy to really, he liked Harry Belafonte is what he liked.
Okay, fair enough. No, I'm curious because, and I asked Jack the similar kind of line of questioning or thinking when we had him on, and that's, for me, like, did you know that you were going to be in the family business? My dad didn't. He was a dentist. He did not want me to be in the family business. I would love to have been a rock star, but I have no talent, so I went the radio route. for you, did you want to be involved in the family business, but kind of dabbled in the rock star life? Like, how did that come about?
It's a good question. First of all, I wasn't a great student, so I wasn't going to really be able to get a degree or go to college. I just was a little dyslexic, and I just didn't like school. I made it through high school, but that was about it. But it was a summer of the 11th grade back in 1982, and it was the first day of summer. My dad said, "You're going to work." So they put me on as a busboy for $4 an hour. And after a couple of weeks, a fry cook needed to go take a vacation. And as a kid, I always went in the kitchen, made my own food and whatever. Sometimes I'd even work on someone else's food if it was on the grill. So I took that spot for that vacation. And when that cook came back, I then transferred into the deli. But long story short, about 3 months into this, my dad hurt his back really bad, and he was in traction. He was in the hospital. So what happened was 100% of his responsibilities fell on me, and people would, my dad was like the guy that would loan you money, the guy that would give you advice in your family, because they looked up to him. So, all of a sudden people are coming to me with their issues at home, in their home life, and they call in sick. I got to figure out how to replace them. Equipment breaks. My dad used to fix that. I have to fix it. So 3 months in, he was out for 3 months, and by the time he came back, I was already in hook, line, and sinker. And I didn't look back. By the time I was, by the time, say, 1984, they put me in charge, and I was pretty, I had to fire the bartender when I was 19 who used to serve me at Shirley Temple when I was 5.
Wow.
So that was, that was a little weird. But, so I learned how to fix things through my dad. He used to be a mechanic, and he just knew how to keep all the equipment running. And the few things I didn't know I learned from people that would come, like a refrigeration technician would come to fix something, so I'd go help him. And by the time I was done helping him, I would, I saw what he did, and so next time I knew how to do it. Same with plumbing, and my dad taught me electrical. So now, ever since really like 1990, I've done every single repair that there is to do here.
Oh, wow.
Other than an exception that when we had a fire in 2008, and we lost 10 pieces of refrigeration equipment, I had no choice but to call for help because I couldn't fix it all in the time we needed it fixed. So, there was 2 or 3 of us working on it, getting it going. But, so I've kind of made myself a slave by learning that stuff because I can't go anywhere. I fix elevators, everything else. So, and we have 3 elevators here, so over 50 different refrigerations, 2 giant air conditioners. So in the restaurant this size, we have over 150 employees, open 24 hours a day. It gets a lot of wear and tear, and drains back up and whatever. So you just have to put out these fires as they come up. So that's pretty much. I jumped in the deep end and been swimming since.
I had to bust the pipe at my house one day, and then I called Mark. I need help, and Mark came down and helped me fix the pipe. That came in handy. Thanks, Mark.
No problem. That's what you get rewarded. Maybe not financially, but you get rewarded. I guess we do get rewarded financially because if we had to call somebody, it would cost a lot of money. But it's more so getting it done quicker, and like a Friday night at 2 a.m. Good luck finding somebody, and if you do, you think they're going to have the parts, they're not. But you get a reward mentally because something is not working, and then you get it working. Your brain rewards you for that. You feel good. You've accomplished something.
There's something to be said that like every inch of your blood, sweat, and tears is in that place. You're not just running it. You're literally building it, or you're keeping it built. You're keeping it alive, keeping it working. Yeah,
well, running it would be like developing the menu and doing those things, which I also take care of. The hiring and making schedules. I still make the schedules for more than half the people that work here. But it's the other half is the fixing. So there's I do 3 different jobs.
So with all that, and that's an understatement. With all of that, and of course you only had a certain amount of maybe know what's to come in that industry. Yes, it's a family business, so I'm sure you knew the ins and outs. But when you were out with Jack, watching Guns N' Roses or other bands in the early days, taking photographs, going to shows, There was no part of you that said, you know what, maybe I want to be in the rock star. I want to be a photographer like Jack, or I want to be something involved more in the music world, or you just knew that, you and Locks were meant to be?
Well, no, I was already. Well, actually, it was '82, so it was the same summer that I started working here when I started taking pictures, because we go to concerts with Jack from starting in '79, and Jack would always sneak his camera in and take really good pictures, and that was what he did. And Jack had the best pictures. Everyone knew that. But what happened was, I'll tell you exactly what happened. Alan Holdsworth was playing the Roxy in April of 1982, and we all knew that Eddie Van Halen was going to show up and be there because that was his idol, and that they were going to jam a song together. But Jack had a lighting gig that night because he also does lighting, and he wasn't able to go, so he gave me his Olympus camera, put a roll of film in there, set the camera, because I had no idea how to set the lens or the exposures or whatever. He set it to exactly the right way it should be, and just told me, what do you got to lose? Shoot it. So I did, and the funny thing is I shot the whole roll, and one picture influenced me to start doing this myself. Out of those 36 pictures, they all came out like crap, except I got a perfect shot of Eddie Van Halen. And that was enough. And the very next thing I knew, it was Slash playing at Fairfax High School. It was actually June 4th of 1982, so it was like 2 months later. And it was a daytime gig. It was during lunchtime. So you didn't really need to know how to set the camera. It was not tricky lighting. So I shot my roll of film off pretty quick, actually. I was very happy with those results. And this time I didn't use Jack's camera. I used my sister's Canon AE1, and she had like a telephoto lens. And the camera, what it did is it made everything blurry behind Slash, so it made it look like professional pictures. It looked really, it looked like one of those festivals where they take that shot of Joe Perry and then you see the crowd is all blurry. It's one of those deals. And so I was like, wow, I could do this. So then I started, from that point on, I started any concert we went to, whether we saw Asia at the Santa Monica Civic or Judas Priest or whatever, it didn't matter. We snuck in our camera and we shot. So Iron Maiden, whatever. So that was that. But at the same time, I was following Slash because I knew he was superhuman, and because I had known him since 1976, and everything he did was extraordinary. And so his artwork, his bike riding, I was actually taking pictures with the 110 film for those little Instamatic cameras, him jumping off La Brea tar pits and, bunny hopping on top of a car or over a trash can without a jump. That's how strong he was. He was able to bunny hop over a trash can with no jump. So anyways, as soon as he started playing guitar and doing gigs, it was natural that, of course, I'm going to document that too. I was already documenting when he was riding bikes. So now I'm into music and he's playing good music, and you can see how talented he was. And, you get goosebumps when he'd do his guitar solo, so you knew he was, something superhuman in there, like Eric Clapton or, Beck or Hendrix. Something was tasteful came out of there. And so and he was fun to look at because he had a good image, so he was a good target. So of course, even though I was shooting other things, and so was Jack, I was following Slash. But then as soon as Slash joined Guns N' Roses, and that was more of a real band because the other bands were like garage bands and they never really did anything but play parties, then Jack started shooting them too because he saw that, he knew Slash also. We were all friends for many years before he even, before Guns N' Roses even happened. So Jack knew Slash from me from like, say, 1982-ish. I'm sorry, 1980. So 5 years before Guns N' Roses even started, Slash was friends with Jack too. So of course Jack was going to come. In fact, Jack shot Black Sheep, which was that was actually May 31st of '85. So it was a week before the very first Guns N' Roses show with the Appetite for Destruction lineup. So Jack actually, got one jump on that and shot Slash for that, and he also did some offstage shots with Slash when he was looking for a band between '84 and '85, just to put ads in the recycler, and you know, so Jack did Jack always did the photo shoots for that. Even when Guns N' Roses needed a photo shoot, Jack always did it because Jack was the photographer. Yes, I got some good shots, but I don't consider myself a photographer. I consider myself someone that knows a good shot and when to pull the trigger, but I never really, you should see, maybe I got 15,000 photos, probably 10,000 of them didn't come out because I didn't know what the hell I was doing as far as setting the camera lens at different lights. I only knew certain things would work, and what I knew always did work, but what I didn't know, my best guess didn't really work because I never learned really how to use the camera. But so that is exactly the second reason why Jack did all the offstage shots, because God knows you didn't have digital cameras then.
Exactly.
So the band wants a shoot for flyers or something, and of course Jack is going to do it because Jack hits a home run every time. So if I did it, who knows? It could be overexposed, underexposed. I didn't know, how to set the lighting, the camera lenses, and all that stuff.
Okay. How do both, because I want to get to some fan questions, and we're actually kind of getting them in real time because I just posted and tweeted that you guys are going to be on together and get some questions from Facebook and Twitter. But this is obviously a question to both of you. The book came out in 2007. How do you both feel about it now in 2019, Reckless Road, Guns N' Roses, and the making of Appetite for Destruction? Because you may not have said that you didn't have a certain vision or technical stuff, but what you put together here, I feel like it's the same care that you put into your deli. Like you had your hands on everything. Is there any? How do you feel today? I'll
tell you, I feel the same today as I felt back then. By the way, that book was actually, the manuscript for that book was put together in the summer of 1993, and it took 15 months at 5 hours a day, approximately 5 hours a day.
15 years, right?
It took 15 months to put together the manuscript, but at that time the band sort of fell apart, and I had an agent that was greedy, and I didn't want anything. I just wanted the book out for the fans, but the agent wanted like a $75,000 advance, and people weren't going to pay that when the band was falling apart. So it got shelved it was sitting for 12 years, and
wow.
I just happened by accident to bump into the people that found out about it and wanted to put it out, and of course I was excited to get it out. But in the end, the reason why, and actually the publisher that put it out did a good job in editing it, because it doesn't look anything like my manuscript. It's just, yes, it's the same photos, but they designed it better than I thought I did. I mean, okay. I made it like a scrapbook, and I put the flyer and the ticket stub, and I put useless information. Well, I call it useless information, but little things that happened that day or what was going on around that time, as kind of like to fill it in. We didn't start doing interviews until I got a publisher that thought we could add a little more color to it by having with the bands what they have to say. The reason is because when I did it, there was going to be a biography on the band that Del James was doing, and I was just going to be doing the scrapbook, with maybe a little information, but not too much, more so driven by the pictures and the flyers. But the book Del was working on got scrapped when the band fell apart, and so the publisher wanted more color and interviewed a few band members. And then I thought, you know what? If we're going to add to this, why don't we talk to the roadies and the strippers and their girlfriends and the record company people, Tom Zutaut and Mike Klink, and because everybody's got a different angle on it, right, or their own story. Mm-hmm. And even some of the stories are wrong that are in there, but they still got printed. And hold on a second. Did I never push the button?
No, it's all good. Are you guys at the deli right now?
Yeah, I'm at the deli. They're trying to call me on the intercom. But anyways,
sorry, I don't mean to keep you from your bagel.
No, that's fine. So what was I saying? I was saying about. So I was trying to just do the fun scrapbook for the ultimate fan to have. But I know, I got it. So some people remember a story and they get something wrong.
Right.
But it's their word, so the publisher actually printed it. But I didn't even get a chance to look at it or edit it. It was the publisher. There was a lot of shady things going on. He misappropriated some of the money that the investors put in, and he was in a rush to get it out because he wanted to get that money. He figured if it comes out quicker, he'll be able to pay that money back that he sort of borrowed. And so it was a mess. But there's some things, believe it or not, as great as it is, there's a few things that I would love to go in there and change, and typos and whatever else. But in the end, it's it started out as 2,000 images in the book, and now it came out to like 900 images. So I actually put it.
Right.
I actually, when I had 2,000 images, I did this on purpose. I took all the best photos, which I knew were too many, but I figured the band, when they look at it, they're going to want some out or whatever. Everyone has their own opinion on certain things. But when I showed Axl the manuscript, he loved it, and he didn't ask for any photos to come out. Actually, there was one he didn't want in there, but it wasn't because of what he looked like. It was because someone else was in the photo that he didn't think needed to belonged in the book. But in the end, yes, I took the one photo out, but he left me with the job of figuring out how to edit down 2,000 to 900. So it's still, of course, it's going to be good because we shot every show between me and Jack. And then I stopped shooting because I started videotaping. And when I stopped shooting, Jack was shooting. So although as crazy as I am and OCD, I would always bring my camera even though I was videotaping. And sometimes if I saw something that I just had to have, I would shoot 5-6 photos off just for the hell of it and leave the video on wide angle for a second and grab something. But for the most part, Jack has filled in more than I did towards the end.
Okay. If I may ask, what in there is incorrect, or do you feel that is incorrect?
No, there's just little tidbits. I'll give you an example. Willie Bass from Black Sheep, what he was talking about when Slash was in the band, that they did a couple of gigs, one at the Troubadour, one at the Country Club, but that's not true. They never played the Troubadour. Slash only played one gig and then quit. So it's not a big deal, but it's not true.
Okay.
It's not true, but it did come out of his mouth, so the publisher felt those were his words, and I know it's stupid, but when you're a perfectionist like me, you want to get I say I'm a perfectionist, but I'm a little OCD, so I want to do my best job to make sure no stones are unturned. So you want to if you can fix it and you read it and you know it's wrong, why not take it out? Why not just take that line out,
Absolutely. No, I completely get that. And
then Izzy's girlfriend, said something that totally wasn't true, that she was dancing, but then she said Axl got jealous because she was getting more attention because she was the hot girl. But it's just the opposite. Because she was a hot girl, Axl put her in the show so the fans would get a better show. So, why did they scrap her? Because, it was she was a bad seed with drugs, and Axl was trying to, eliminate that from the show. So, or at least from hanging around the band. So, people get things wrong, and it's not a big deal, but it's, I like to fix it if I could.
Do you and Jack have can you pick a favorite photo in the book, or is it kind of like picking your children? Is there one that stands out, maybe not just because of it's a cool picture, but the story behind it? Do each of you have a favorite?
I do fine art photos, and people want to kill me because I have like 20 of them, because they're all my favorite, and they all mean something else. They all mean something different, depending, whether they debuted a song that night or it was, 2 seconds after they got off stage and they were taking a breath, like 5 days before they got signed. So there's different things for, if you're looking for just a guitar photo, I have one or two that are my favorite of Slash, but, it's hard to say. But I know one thing, there's photos I like of Jack's that he doesn't think are that good. So...
Exactly. Why'd you take that shot?
I'm sure Jack has his favorite shots in the book, and
the deli shot made me famous.
Well, the deli shot, deli shot is the money shot, and there's no doubt about it. Most people think I shot that simply because it was at Canter's, and it's the cover of Reckless Road. But as I told you before, that was an off-stage photo shoot for a flyer for the Stardust Ballroom, which was, I believe, like June 28th of 1985.
What a dump.
The people that collect that flyer or bought it on eBay, if it says photo by Jack Lew on the side, it's a bootleg. And the reason why is when they made that photo, they didn't give Jack. And when they made that flyer, they didn't give Jack photo credit. They just they used the photo, made the flyer, and passed it out, and that was that.
Wow.
Years later, in 1993, when I was doing the book, I actually took one of the flyers and wrote that in there so that he would get the credit for it in the book.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did. So here's the thing.
Wow.
Now it's in the book, and what people do is they make they Xerox it or whatever, scan it, and then they pretend they make a flyer and they pretend that they're selling them on eBay for $20 or whatever, and they're trying to say it was an original flyer, but I can spot it from a mile away because it says photo by Jack Lew. And so, like I said, that didn't get put in until 1993. So
Oh, wow.
I have like 100 original flyers at home.
of that gig.
Yeah.
So I always tell people if you see one without it saying photo by Jack Lew, then that's the real photo. But back to that photo. That photo is really important because Slash and Steven had just joined the band literally like a week before that. Slash had quit Black Sheep that night after the gig. And their first gig, was June 6th. So it was literally 6 days after Slash played with Black Sheep. And Steven they knew from Hollywood Roast. So Tracy was out and Rob Gardner was out, and they didn't want to go up to Seattle to do that little tour that Duff booked, or they didn't know where they were going to stay or how they were going to get there. And they were right because the transportation turned out it broke down 150 miles north of here. So, everyone knows the Hell Tour story, so they had to hitchhike and steal food from farms and whatever. They play a gig, and then the guy didn't want to pay them for the gig because they really didn't bring anyone, any people to see him. In the end, they did get some money out of the guy, and someone gave him a ride home, but they were tired and hungry, but they knew they suffered a little bit together on the road, so it kind of made them like they had each other's backs, and they also knew that they were the right fit, a musician's perfect fit. And so the puzzle was complete. Now they get back here, and the first thing they do is book a gig. And now they need a flyer. So they come to Canter's for two reasons. They need a photo shoot from Jack, and they're starving. So that food is always free, of course. And so if you look at that photo carefully, you'll see the hunger in their eyes. They know they got something. Yet that lineup they didn't even write a song yet. The first song that lineup put together was Welcome to the Jungle, which didn't debut until July 20th at the Troubadour. But so here we are in June. It's a month before that. Right? But they knew they clicked. So they started writing songs after that, and every song they put together. First came Jungle, then came Rocket Queen, then came Paradise City, then came Night Train, then came My Michelle, then came Out to Get Me. There was no throwaway songs.
Wow.
And the songs they put together were ready, right down to the guitar solo. Every one of those songs, the first time they played them, Rocket Queen, Jungle, not Paradise City, but My Michelle, the guitar solo was the same as you hear it on Appetite for Destruction. So whatever Slash decided to rip out at that rehearsal the very first time they played it, it worked, and he just remembered it. And then when the gig was there, he threw that one out at the gig. And then the next gig, he's remembered that solo, and then it's time to record the record, and that's just the solo. There it is. So the songs pretty much they produced and arranged their own music. On how it was just a perfect fit. You can't really say, well, who was more important in the band? At what percentage of 100 would you just say Axl or Slash or Izzy or Duff? The problem is, if you give them all a value, that value is going to add up to like 280%, because they're all so valuable that whatever percentage you say, well, this guy's worth that amount of percent, it doesn't add up to 100, because that's what a perfect match they were and how valuable they were. So there was no junk. It was all good. So, that back to that photo, you could see the hunger in their eyes, and they were anxious to go out and rip up L.A. and write songs and do it. And yeah, sure, they had a couple songs under their belt from different lineups, like Don't Cry and Think About You and Move to the City, Anything Goes, from different lineups that and you knew there was something there to that, but it was not until you got that exact lineup. And it didn't really matter who wrote the song. It was who started the song, and then who added this and who added that. And it was different contributions from pretty much the whole band, and everyone tweaks, adds what their 2 cents to it, and you have them living together in a shoebox, writing, and one guy's strumming the guitar, the other guy says, "Hey, play that again. I got an idea," and then they change it a little bit, and then so, they're all there. Later on, sure, they wrote good music, but they weren't living together. And so it would be more so one guy writes something, has an idea, and sends a tape, and the other people listen to it, and they add something. But it's and as good as it still was, it wasn't the same method of living on the streets and
Sure.
writing about being chased by the cops or which girl ripped you off or whatever. But it gave them the perfect storyline. The material was there. They were living whatever life they were living. Gave them the material as far as the lyrics go. The melody, that's their own talent, and that's something they're born with. The guitar writing, the music is also their own talent and something that they develop. But how it fit with them working off each other in 1985, 1986, it just, the music industry was kind of dead, and punk had died out, and rock and roll was gone, and you had some heavy metal or hard. You still had like Judas Priest around or someone like that, but it just wasn't. The Motley Crue was around doing a few things, but it wasn't anything promising really. And they just said, no. We know what good music is, and we grew up with good music from the 70s and late 60s, and they just were all on the same page. So they were able to really click together and put out music that they were doing it for themselves. They put out music that they enjoyed to play, and they were proud of it. And they'd go play a gig, and they would play that new song, and people. I would record those shows, and after the show, sometimes I heard those songs for the first time as the audience did. Maybe I wasn't at a rehearsal I was at a rehearsal where they were putting together Rocket Queen, but I didn't, like Welcome to the Jungle, I didn't see them work on it. It just happened. I got to the gig, and they had a new song on that set list, and I heard it the first time. Everyone else heard it in that crowd, but the difference is everyone else went home. I went home and I had a tape of it. That was the difference. I popped it in my car and listened to it, the next day, and knew, the value of that song and knew how good it was. So everyone else knew it was good, but they don't know what they exactly. You can't hear a song for the first time live and think you're going to remember that song
right.
or how it went. You just remembered it was pretty cool, but you don't sure how exactly it went until you hear it a couple of times.
Yeah, especially if it's the first time you're living in the moment, you really don't know what's happening, or can fully process it. For sure.
And I'm shooting, and Jack's shooting. When you're shooting, you're distracted. My I don't know how Jack would do it, but I not only was I shooting, I was recording it, and so I had to get to a place where everything sounds good, and where the microphone's not going to get. I used to stick it in my side pocket and have a little headphones jack, and I clip it onto my watch, and so you had to be careful not to make too much noise as far as what you rub against or, those kinds of things. And then you also, to get a good bird's eye view of what you want to shoot, and, is there a tall guy in front of you, or, can you get group shots from this angle? And the places started, the word got out, and they started the first gig with, maybe 50 people, and then before you know it, there's 200 people, and then pretty soon it's sold out. We were putting ads in BAM Magazine, a couple quarter-page ads, and one at the Roxy, one at the Troubadour, and that helped crowds. And then we put full-page ads, and as soon as we do that, they started selling out gigs. That was their first sold-out gig. I think it was November 22nd of 1985 at the Troubadour, and that was a full-page ad in BAM. But by then, the word was already spreading that there was something there, but the full-page ad helped because they got a full-page ad. Let's go see, we heard these guys were good, so now we have to go check it out.
A lot of forward thinking, because it's not like today where everyone is a photographer with their phones or can upload a blog or can send invites on Facebook. You had that mindset before it was really common to have that kind of mindset. So I want to get to some questions. We're kind of getting into some real time, which is great because I know it's a pre-recorded podcast. A lot of people, I put it out there if they had any questions for you and Jack, and of course if they own Reckless Road. So this is from Twitter from Jerry Klusky, and he says, "Yes, I own it and I love it. Ask Mark if he has spoken to Axl since about the book and what his opinion of it is, because you mentioned that he saw the storyboard of it." And he goes on the finish by saying, Axl should be very proud of what Mark has put together.
Well, you're asking a question that's kind of convoluted. Nothing to do with Axl, nothing to do with me. A third party got involved. Obviously, at the time that my book was coming out, it was at a time when Axl was not on speaking terms with Slash, and so he was focusing on Chinese democracy, and it was kind of a distraction. So he didn't actually support it at the time it was coming out. But he obviously liked the material because he loved it when I put it together. The manuscript, he saw it and a couple of times and he was happy. But then he was not, after that he was in a divorce pretty much with Slash, and there was legal battles and whatever else. So it was ugly. So it's hard for him to really comprehend the importance of the fan getting that material. And so, but I knew it was history and we weren't going to bury it, and so it's got to come out. And it doesn't matter what you're doing now. It matters, if you had children with a previous marriage, you still like those children.
Yeah, that's
you might not like the wife or the husband or whatever, but you still love the kids. So you can't knock the things they did together. But for Axl, who was very emotional, it was hard on him. And so I went into sort of intervention mode, I guess, because some of the people around him were yesing him to death, and I knew, Axl used to look to me for advice sometimes because he knew I was around in the beginning and I wasn't there to bullshit him, and he would call on me and from time to time, and I would give him, sometimes we'd argue about things, but in the end, he respected my opinion, but he was actually very hurt that he felt betrayed that I was going to put this book out at that time. He might have supported it later on, but it didn't. There was no later on. It was already sitting 12 years.
Yeah, I was about to say, it wasn't your fault that it was shelved.
No,
for 12 years.
I wasn't even looking for a publisher at the time, but I wasn't going to turn it down. It had to come out. But anyways, long story short, I didn't know I had a third party rooting against me at that time. And so the playing field wasn't exactly level, and my intervention wasn't working. And I knew he was reading, when it first came out, I'd go on chat boards and curious to see what people are talking about, and if they had any questions, I'd answer them. There was online material that wasn't working properly, so I'd kind of go there and help them. But when I got there, I noticed there was this big feud going on between Axl and Slash fans, blaming each other for everything. And I'd kind of get in there and clean it up and say it's nobody's fault. They just need a little break, and whatever their differences, they could definitely work them out. Get a family therapist and sit down, each of you separately, and then when the family therapist knows your issues, then at some point you sit together and you could work it out. It was nothing. It's not like somebody shot someone's mother. It was all things that could be. I knew both sides of it tight because Axl would tell me exactly his feelings, and I knew what Slash's feelings were. So I knew that there was miscommunication there and it could be resolved. So my hopes were whenever I did interviews, I was secretly talking to Axl. I would answer the question, hoping Axl's listening, and in an intervention kind of a way to, and he was listening at the beginning. And I think at some point they stopped. They blocked him from looking at some of that stuff, but which I was not even aware of until later. But I didn't give up. I stayed on it for 9 years actually. And at some point, I don't know exactly what triggered them talking. I really don't. But I know I planted seeds, at least in the earlier years when I was doing that. And Axl did respect my opinion a lot. So even though he was disappointed in me, you knew that he's got to wonder, why would Mark say this? And I'm sure it was stuck in his brain. You can't unring a bell. Once he's heard me say it, he knows what I had to say. So in the end, they worked out their differences, and it got good. But that third party didn't really want me around because they were trying to control everything. And so of course, they were rooting against me. So I to be honest with you, I never patched up with Axl, but I will someday. It's only a matter of time. But I'm too busy in my world to worry about it. What I'm happy about is I don't have to sit there and push for that intervention because it's already done. They got back together. So it was such a relief. I used to go daily on chat boards, and I would do whatever I could to get under Axl's skin, so to just be in his face and, put it out there, put the same message out there. But like I said, he wasn't really looking at that point, so I was pretty much wasting my time. But it doesn't matter now because they're together, so that's all that matters.
I mean, you're just describing the actions of a good friend. That's pretty much all you're doing, and somebody who is a fan of the band and a fan of these people, just like, their fan base is, which is just great. And, of course, out of respect, and I just want to acknowledge for people who may say, I'm not going to ask you who this third party may be. It's, out of respect.
No, we're just going to leave it at that. But
yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It just, it is what it is. It's not Axl. I don't blame Axl because probably 99% of people that need an intervention, regardless what it is, won't agree with the intervention. So,
sure.
There's very few people that know, thank you for doing this, you're right, I need this. Most people say that that nobody likes an intervention that needs it. So it was a hard task, but, and I feel bad for not doing it sooner, actually, because I was probably one of the only ones that still talked to both parties. So I was in position to, if that was going to get done.
It happened the way it was meant to happen.
If that was going to get done 20 years ago, I was in the position to do that, and I feel guilty that I didn't really attempt to do it until after I had to do it when the book came out. Okay. But it doesn't matter. I'm happy with the result, and Axl is doing well, and I'm proud that he was able to go out with AC/DC, and I knew he could do the Bon Scott stuff, but
that was so good.
Brian Johnson stuff is really impressive that he was able to pull that off.
Agreed.
So I'm proud of what he's doing.
Yeah, right on. I think we all are. All right, some more questions, and I won't keep you too long. I know you got to go back to making the donuts, so to speak. This is from 80s Girl on Twitter. Do you think a GNR biopic would be a great or a terrible idea? Well,
okay, so there was one. James Franco got a hold of Reckless Road, and he wanted to put one together based on
Really?
Reckless Road. This was a few years back, maybe 2014, something like that. But I didn't. I mean, sure, I would love for that to happen. But of course, there's a lot of First, they got to get the rights to it, and whatever as far as like the music and the obviously the band has to get involved. And at that time, they still weren't together, so that was going to be a hat trick. I told James all the challenges and that are going to be there, but he liked the book so much they still put together a deal to attempt to make that, to get that done, or at least to see if they can get the rights to it, which they didn't, and so it got scrapped. But the thing with the biopics is they could be hit and miss.
Right.
It's hard to find someone to play you and get it right. And if you're one person, it's easier to do. The Queen one came out pretty good. Actually, and that's not one person. That's more than one person. But you never know. It could be hit and miss. But there's such good stories there, and how that all came about. There's definitely 3 movies just out of that club days. You can take Hell Tour and make a whole movie just out of that.
No, you're right, and that's what I was thinking. That's what I wanted The Dirt to be, and if there ever is a GNR one, like if it came to Netflix, I would want it to be a series, not just a one-and-done movie. I would love to see a 10-part, Guns N' Roses series on Netflix.
But it's hard to do it when it's to find the right people. That was such a unique band. I don't know, maybe you could find people that might look the part, but it could be hit and miss. It's something that will probably be done when they're gone, and they're not here to stop it, because all of a sudden everyone jumps on that bandwagon of making money off you after you're dead. But
true.
So that always happens. But I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it could be good. But when I was involved in this, I was trying to give myself some power to make sure if it was bad that I could stop it. That's the only thing I cared about is having my input. You know, whether if the band signs off on it, which was a very slim chance, I had input to make sure that I had a kill button to make sure I could say yes or no on something, because I have that obligation not to, you know, to make sure things are done the best way they could be done. And if it started going the wrong way, you know, I wouldn't want to see the story get twisted, or, you know, I hate that. It was a problem. You know, I'm a detail person, and when they do stupid things like in the Queen movie, we all know that We Will Rock You was from 1977, and they have it 3 years later. Now, why did they do that? Who was not catching that? I mean, the band is involved. 1977 happened in that movie. Why didn't they write that song then? Why are they in the studio and it says 1980 and they're writing that song? I would never let a detail like that go by. You know, I'm more meticulous on getting things right. And there is a lot of good stories. And the truth is, everyone wants the sensationalism, but the truth is there's a good story just based on the music.
Agreed.
And how they put songs together and how good these songs were and how important, you know, you know, we were lucky, Jack and I, to be there to watch it grow into what it did. I knew they were going to make it. I just was worried, will they live, or you know, or not break up from a fight or something, or not. Some of them end up in jail or whatever. But you know, I knew if they could stay together, and at some point they were going to put a record out. That's because I believed in the music right off the start, because I knew it was good enough. To me, it was like watching Led Zeppelin or Aerosmith, or a band like that caliber, because they had the image, they had the sound, they had the songwriting, they had the vocals, they had the guitar playing. So they had like 5 different elements, and a lot of these bands make it just on 1 or 2 of those elements. So the chances of them making it, if they could get to the right, you know, to the right people, were very high. So I didn't know that MTV would, you know, catapult them as far as they did. I figured, yeah, they'd have a gold record out, you know, maybe a platinum one, that kind of a thing, because you knew the songs were good.
But you never thought it would be the heights that it hit.
No, but I did. There were certain tells when they played the street scene the first time, which was in September. Let's see, was it September 28th, 1985? Before that, they had only played in front of 200 people, and that gig there was like 2,000, 3,000 people there. And could have been 5,000, who knows? And they were opening for Social Distortion, and the Guns was supposed to go on at 5:30.
GNR opened for Social Distortion?
Yep.
Oh, wow! I never knew that.
But it was a street festival, so there was probably 10 bands on. You know, I won't say they opened; they were the band before Social.
Understood.
Distortion.
Got it.
So, anyways, Social Distortion was a well-known band, so that the L.A. punkers were out there waiting for their band, and you know they had to sit through a bunch of crap before that, and then you know if Guns N' Roses was supposed to go on at 5:30, that means that Social D was going on at 6. Meanwhile, it's 8:30 and Guns is taking the stage, so you know they're irritated. Now they see Guns N' Roses, they don't know who they are. All they know is it's not Social Distortion, so they wanted them off. So they started shaking the stage, spitting at them, throwing food at them. But Guns N' Roses, they held on, and they basically won that crowd over. And it was at that gig when I realized they're a stadium band. And so, even though the stage wasn't a stadium, it was bigger than what they were. No, actually, it wasn't bigger than what they were used to. Actually, it was a little smaller, but they handled that crowd perfectly. And so that was like an extra bonus. And then I saw it a second time when they played the Santa Monica Civic, but that was like probably a year later, and I think it was August 30th, a year later, 1986. They were opening up for Ted Nugent, and Black and Blue was the actual opener, and Guns N' Roses was just thrown on the bill just because they were from L.A. and someone had some clout and got them on there, for probably Tom Zutaut or somebody like that. And that crowd was there to see Black and Blue and Ted Nugent. They had pretty much no idea who GNR was other than a handful of people. And they won that crowd over, too. And that was Santa Monica Civic, and it was not sold out, but it was pretty full. So that was another tell that it was going to work,
Wow.
Those people weren't familiar with the songs.
Your memory is just phenomenal. I want to get to more questions because I know we're going a bit of overtime, and again, I know you guys are busy, and I appreciate you giving me your time today on a Sunday. This is on Facebook. This is from Scott Dryberg. Mark is such a lovely bloke. Can you please pass on a collective huge thanks from all of us mad GNR fans around the world? I guess the big question for Mark is why he seems to be excluded from the big reconciliation over the past few years, although that may be a sensitive question and not right to ask. So if it's not right to ask, you don't have to answer it.
Well, I already did answer it, sort of. I told you it was a third party got involved that wanted to control everything and was trying to get rid of me even before the book. So I didn't realize it until later on. There was some things that I pieced together later on that were tells that this was coming. Okay. And there was a handful of other people that were very close to Axl that were all of a sudden no longer in Axl's life. But these are people that would have donated a body part to Axl. So people that still care about him. So that's basically what it's come to. But
okay.
It's possible for me to solve that issue, but there'd be a chain reaction of other problems. So it's just better off left as is, and it's fine.
All right, fair enough. This is from Nick Van Hess, also on Facebook. Since you're so great with dates, what bands opened up for GNR at the Whiskey April 5th, 1986? I found 2 flyers for that show. One said Faster Pussycat and Angels in Vain. Another flyer said Pussycat and Shanghai. So
it was Shanghai for sure. I don't remember.
That, Mark?
I remember it, but I don't. What I don't remember. Oh wait! Tammy was there that night because they did a strip whatever you call it contest, and Tammy was the MC on it. So it's possible that Tammy may have opened the show, but I don't remember. I can't confirm that 100%. I just know he was there and he was running the strip contest. That was right before GNR took the stage. But Shanghai definitely was an opener, but I don't remember if Faster Pussycat played also. I don't remember.
Okay. And if you happen to go on the AFD Facebook page, Nick posted it. He's working on a pen drawing of that flyer, and it looks phenomenal, his pen drawing. Another question, this is from Josh Lewis, maybe you know, from Anita Squeeze, the original guitarist of Warrant. So he wants to know, Mark, if you have any photos of Warrant from the Curly Joe's New Year's Party, 83-84, with the Road Crew, Pyrus, and Warrant.
That's very good. That's very funny. Yes, I know Josh. I might have one picture. I'll have to look. I definitely have a picture of Pyrus because it was in the book, which, by the way, was Tracy Gunn's band.
Right.
But Warrant, yes, Josh was the original guitar player in Warrant, and somehow he got eaten up by the rest of the band, and he somehow, even though it was his band, by the time they made it, he was gone. Don't ask me how that happens. How does other members take over a band that you started?
Unreal. I mean, Josh is a former guest of the show, and I highly recommend anyone listen to his story as well. In addition,
he also roadied for Slash in Hollywood Rose, one gig at Madame Wong's West.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. This one is for you, Jack. This is from Jan Henrik from Germany. He wants to know, I guess, Mark, you can also answer this, if you saw any GNR gigs with Tracy.
No.
No?
Oh,
okay.
Never shot in those.
Okay. This one, let me see, and I'll just get a couple more in here because we got so many questions, guys. And by the way...
Well, hold on a minute. I saw, well, you know because you have the book, but I saw LA Guns with Axl, so that's like... It actually was Guns N' Roses minus the Izzy, because when Guns N' Roses Guns N' Roses 1 version 1 had Uli as a bass player, Rob Gardner, Tracy Guns, Axl, and Izzy. So the LA Guns that I saw 2 gigs of had exactly those members minus the Izzy. So it was a 4-piece without the Izzy, and the only difference is when Axl left, but when later on, like 8 months later, they got back together. It was a project that was Hollywood Rose and Guns N' Roses team up to give you Guns N' Roses. I'm sorry, Hollywood Rose and LA Guns team up to give you Guns N' Roses. So it was not going to be, did Tracy join Axl's band or did Axl join Tracy's band? It was going to be, we start a new band together. And so, in a way, I saw that, but without Izzy.
Okay, that's still pretty amazing. 2 more for you guys, and there's more questions. I just can't get to them all. Johan Batista, he wants to know about releasing any quote new footage that you haven't released yet, 86, 87 gigs, etc.
Well, I have lots of footage, obviously, that's not released, and the best thing for that to ever be happen is waiting for a good project that the band puts out, like a box set or, a documentary, something like that.
What do you think about the box set, by the way? And that was a question also from 80s Girl on Twitter. What did you feel about the box set that was put out?
Well, the box set, it's always good to put a box set out with little memorabilia and things like that. As far as the material, I'm glad they finally, it's very strange, but you're not going to believe this, but I never heard that version of Shadow Your Love until the box set.
Oh, wow.
I know Mike Klink recorded it, and that's what Axl, said, oh, you got the job. But I never, many years, right after that, I always said to Mike, every time I saw him, I never heard, Shadow Your Love was one of my favorite songs. So I said, I got to hear it one day. Okay, I'll bring it one day. But I never got to hear it. So for that alone, you had me at Shadow Your Love. But could it have been a better project? Sure. If they won't work with me for, those reasons I told you. But I have the first time they played every one of their songs, 10 of their songs from Appetite for Destruction, the first time they were ever performed. I have that. So Imagine what kind of box set. Now, they're not all perfect, but there's some of them are, like that Rocket Queen's pretty good. A couple of them are pretty good, but Welcome to the Jungle is actually pretty good. But there could have been some cool things done with that, but it doesn't mean that we missed the boat. There's always a future. I still have that stuff well preserved.
Love your attitude, Mark. I really do. Last question from Eric Peacher. This is the most important question. Did anyone from the band ever puke in Cantor's Deli?
That's pretty funny. I was just talking last night. Slash puked in my car.
Okay.
Because I was trying to help Axl. I know that sounds strange, but after Hollywood Rose broke up, so this was like the summer of 1984. Axl then joined Tracy in LA Guns, and so it was like Tracy was a rival guitar player of Slash in high school, and now that Hollywood Rose broke up, Slash and Axl aren't talking. They're pissed off at each other. Axl calls me, and because he liked my photos from Hollywood Rose, and said, "Can you come shoot me in LA Guns? We're playing the Troubadour this Saturday at midnight." And I said, "Yeah, I'll help you." Meanwhile, I'm at a party with Slash at a mutual friend's house, and it was a Saturday night, and it's like 10:30, and I got to get out of there because I got to start heading over to the Troubadour. And Slash was depending on me for a ride home, and I can clearly see he was drunk off his ass, and it probably wasn't a good idea to move him. But I had to help Axl, and I couldn't tell Slash I was helping Axl. So I put him in my car, and all I had to do was drive about 8 blocks away, literally. That's where he was going. And, of course, he puked. And where did he puke? Right in between the two seats. The worst possible place you could think of. You couldn't pick a better place. I mean, or I should say a worse place. Right. But did they ever puke at Cantor's? No.
Okay. Good, because you don't need that smell in there.
No, but there was once a food fight. I left him alone for 1 second to go do something, and I came back, and there was food all over the walls. True.
Oh, I guess they didn't break anything, I guess.
In the main room. And you know what? I was so mad at Slash because he should have known better, because you don't shit where you eat, basically, and it's a place of business. And so what I did was I took a strawberry whipped cream cake, and I put it in his face. Now, if you think about it, it's not really a punishment. It's a good thing to have a strawberry whipped cream cake.
Yeah, I just lick it off my face.
But it goes in your hair, and it's a little inconvenient, and that was his punishment.
Oh, brilliant. Mark, I mean, a lot of people are just commenting with photos taken with you at Cantor's Deli in that booth because it's not just a staple in the area. Fans from all over come to visit. It's a landmark. And it's been cool. I don't know if you've seen, Jack, people have taken that photo on the cover of the book and kind of hold it up in front of the, you know, like those Instagram photos where they'll hold up the picture in front of the booth and kind of make it look like they're there now, in a way. I don't know if I'm describing that properly, but it's just it's still a beloved book over a decade later. Mark, thank you so much. You were an absolute pleasure to meet and speak with, and just great stories and such a great attitude. You know, that you're rooting for your friends, and I have hope for the future too. I say now, anything is possible if Axl and Slash got back together again. That was Mom and Dad got back together again. So.
Hell froze over, huh?
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, it happened in this lifetime. And Jack, you know, you were great. Your laughter throughout the podcast made me laugh, and just there was something that I thought it was a great story where, you know, Mark was saying those those photos that were bootlegged, and you didn't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that
flyers.
Flyers, right. The flyers. And you didn't know that Mark put your name on there to give you credit because you weren't originally given credit. So that was cool to learn that together.
What does the box set have? The box set have my name on it?
I don't know. I don't
own a box set.
I didn't have $1,000 to spend on that box set, but
Me neither.
Send us one.
Yeah,
I did get a pinball machine though.
Oh, okay, all right. That's not too bad. So I guess the best way, of course, for Jack and Lou, everyone follow Jack on Instagram at Jack Lue, Lue. Just a great follow, and you know, even on Facebook. I don't know if you've reached the Facebook friends limit. And Mark, is the best way for people to contact you either through CantorsDeli.com or MarkCantor.com?
RecklessRoad.com is my personal email, but I'm also on Instagram.
Okay.
I don't post much, but I go on there a lot. So if someone sends me a message, I'll get it.
Okay, great.
I think on Instagram you might be able to find me under Mark Cantor, but I think the name's actually Reckless Road Book is what it is. Okay, great. And again, thank you, Jack. The reason I finally had it in my possession before I interviewed Jack, he sent me an autographed copy. So again, thank you, Jack. That is proudly displayed in my new apartment.
Hey.
Well, thank you guys so much. And I guess hope you both have a great day, and maybe we'll do this again.
All right. No problem.
Thanks, Brando.
So that does it for this episode of the AFD Show. And will you hear the future interviews? Well, in the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.
Thanks to the lame-ass security, I'm going home.